everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It was an honor to be asked to give a little talk on the state of the schools, and I put together not a comprehensive update for you all, just a very 30,000-foot view of things that are happening in the schools that I thought that might be of interest to our Greater Beech Grove Chamber of Commerce. I'll have to apologize because I'm going to have to click back and forth on the screen here, so just as I walk back and forth, I'll do my very best. But I wanted, for those of you who haven't had an opportunity to get to know me yet, just to let you know that I am a new superintendent to Beech Grove, but I'm not new to Beech Grove. So I have a very odd, interesting career path. I started as a special education teacher and sixth grade teacher in Brown County schools. Ultimately was an elementary principal in Brown County, and I was an assistant superintendent there. It was during my time as assistant superintendent that I met Dr. Paul Kaiser, we were actually in our PhD program together at Indiana State. And it was a year later after we had met that he became superintendent here in Beech Grove, and I was able to come up and serve as his director of special education and then his assistant superintendent. I was here for 7 years, and I loved it. I loved every second. In fact, the only reason that I would have left Beech Grove was because Brown County had asked me to come back and be their superintendent, and it just felt like in my career path that was the right thing to do. I loved being superintendent down in Brown County. I was there for 5 years, and truly, it wasn't until this superintendency was a potential that I just jumped at the chance to come back to Beech Grove, and I hope that I can retire from Beech Grove. I still have a lot left in me, and I'm so excited for where the schools are headed and where the city of Beech Grove is headed. In the 5 years that I was gone, I told the mayor this. It was extraordinary to see how much Beech Grove had grown and how Main Street was genuinely revitalized. So to see all of the things that have happened, and certainly all of the things that Dr. Kaiser did as superintendent, it's just a gift to get to come back and to hopefully not mess things up. But we do have a lot of ideas about ways that we can continue to move forward. And we'll kind of talk about that a little bit here this afternoon. But I promise you this will not be a super long presentation. So today I just had some topics that I wanted to be able to just kind of talk to you a little bit about. I thought you might find it interesting to just hear about where we are with the pandemic, how things are going in the schools related to our pandemic response. I'm going to tell you a little bit about a big grant that we just received, $5.5 million grant that's going to allow for us to really elevate our teaching and learning in the schools. Going to give you a little update on our facilities. We've had a lot of construction projects going on, and it can just show you the progress on those projects. Take a little bit of time to talk about our financial condition, where we are financially, and some proposed administrative reorganization so that we can kind of downsize a little bit, and community partnership appreciation, and then lastly, just some student success stories. So we'll dive right into the pandemic. And just wanted you to know that we are so proud that this school year we have been able to be in person all day, every day. We had one day at Beech Grove High School that we needed to move to virtual, and that was because we just didn't have enough staff to be able to have school that day. The Omicron variant hit us hard. And what was weird about Omicron is that more so it affected the adults in our school district as opposed to the students. So we were seeing large numbers, and it just was so able to be caught, right? It was spread so easily that we had a number of staff that were testing positive and needed to be out for 5 days and then kind of rolling back. But thankfully, all in all day, every day, we've been in school, and that is a great improvement upon where we were last year, where for our secondary students, we were needing to be on that hybrid schedule. We are certainly worried about how the pandemic has had an impact on student achievement. We know now, we have data that is evidencing that the pandemic, the last year and a half up to this school year, have had a real negative impact on our student performance and student achievement. Our data are showing that the students that are coming into now second grade, right, because their entire first grade year and then half of their kindergarten year, we're showing only 7% at the beginning of this school year were students performing on grade level. So that's just a remarkable gap that we have to, and we are working to improve. But it is something that this is not a short game, right? This is a long intervention work that we have to do to ensure that our students are continually exposed to extra, to allow for them to kind of bridge some of those gaps that were experienced during that really difficult year and a half. We do have really nice new protocols for quarantine. It has been so hard during the pandemic because so many of our students were identified as close contacts. So if we had a student who tested positive, or a staff member for that matter, and if you were within 3 feet of that student for 15 minutes or more, you were identified as a close contact. So you can imagine throughout the school day, you're around a whole bunch of people as you kind of go through your day. And we were seeing 50 to 100 students that would be quarantined but not sick. And that was just killing us, right? Because we wanted those kids to be in school. Thankfully, the Department of Health has changed that protocol. We are now not having to do any contact tracing. So the only students or staff members who are not in school right now because of the pandemic are those that are testing positive. And we had a huge celebration yesterday. For the first time in months, we had a day where no student and no staff member tested positive for COVID-19. Huge, right? So we believe, thank you, we believe that we're on the other side. Omicron was just crazy how the cases just shot up like a jet rocket. And what's so nice is we're falling just as swiftly as we went up. So that is a wonderful thing to see. We've learned a lot. We've learned a lot about how to do virtual learning. We actually had, because of the little blizzard that we had last week, we had 2 days of virtual learning last week that we are now not having to make up as a snow makeup day. So we were able to use that e-learning protocol for our winter weather, and it went very, very well. So we've learned a lot about what that online experience looks like, how to best engage our students, how to kind of create the format in a way that students are checking in and not checking out, which was a real problem for us during the entirety of last school year. So super proud of our teachers, and our principals have done an amazing job making learning still happen even in the most challenging environment that we've seen in a very long time. So that's just a little pandemic update, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Teacher and School Leader Incentive Grant. This is this massive grant that the district received. We were invited to apply. I think I'd been on the job for about 25 days, and we were asked to apply. We got the application turned around very, very quickly, and we're so delighted to be able to receive this federal grant that is a competitive grant with districts across the nation. We're the only school district in Indiana to receive this grant, and it is all about advancing and empowering teachers to be able to best deliver instruction so that student achievement is then impacted. And it allows for additional teacher compensation. So there is a performance-based compensation component to the grant that allows for teachers based on their data. So as they're moving students and as students are then ultimately impacted positively in their achievement, then teachers are rewarded as a result of moving the dial. So it's not, and what I love about it is it's not necessarily standardized assessment driven. The grant awards growth no matter where you are. So if you are showing up as a second grader, but you're actually performing as a kindergartner, but if your teacher moves you a full year, you might not still be at grade level, but you've made that growth. And so it's awarding student growth, student achievement at the same time. There are 4 different components to the grant. I could probably give you a whole presentation on the grant itself, but just know that great things are happening in the schools as a result of this grant opportunity. And we are able to relieve our education fund quite a bit because it's paying for full-time positions for teachers and paying for all of these performance-based compensation components that allow for our teachers to be compensated more on top of their base salary increases that we negotiate every year. So it's a really great thing for teachers, great things for kids, and also advances professional growth opportunities for our teachers as well. So we believe that better teachers are better students, and we've got the best ones here in Beech Grove. Our facilities are really coming along, and we always like to pause whenever we talk about our facilities, because the reason why our facilities are so magnificent is because of the community of Beech Grove. And you all supported our referendum back in 2020 that is allowing for some of these incredible facilities to be built and then enjoyed by our young people. And I can assure you that they are being enjoyed by our community and our young people. This one is showing the Jim Hensley Field of Dreams. This is the baseball field. Our baseball and softball field are now fully turf. It is very hard to find a turf baseball and softball field in a K-12 environment in Indiana. We are one of the only ones, and I can tell you that we have a whole bunch of districts that are coming to see what we have because they want to build it in their own community. We just hosted Bartholomew Consolidated Schools came up because they heard about our baseball field, and now they're going to have a baseball field that looks a whole lot like ours down there in Columbus. So it's an honor, right, for other districts to come to see these really special spaces that have been built. And this ball field, of course, has so much love and heart in it. Jim Hensley, of course, just a dear, we just miss him so much still, a member of our Beech Grove community, board member who worked so much with youth baseball, and to see his name being honored at this field is just a really, really special thing. So that is a breathtaking view from above. Here is a gorgeous view, I think, of kind of the whole athletic complex that was updated. This is the softball field. That's, of course, the football field, and then the baseball field. Kind of gives you perspective on where all of these properties are currently in place. Interestingly, our district was able to just buy this 6-acre piece of property from a former teacher of ours, and that will ultimately just sit for a while. We just don't have the resources to be able to revitalize that area, but ultimately we're thinking that that will be a soccer field. So that 6-acre piece of property would ultimately allow for then our whole athletic complex to be done and beautiful. So that's what it's looking like there. And we are just a gorgeous picture of our Veterans Stadium, TCU Veterans Stadium there. Gorgeous new scoreboard, and the field itself is just stunning. And we're so grateful to Teachers Credit Union for allowing for that facility to be sponsored. So grateful, Michelle, always for that. This is wonderful. If you drive by the front of Beech Grove High School, you'll notice a brand new, gigantic greenhouse that is out front of the Science Academy. The greenhouse was really the vision of a collective group of folks who serve on the Agriculture Advisory Board. We have, of course, you all know, just one of the strongest FFA chapters for urban ag in the state of Indiana here at Beech Grove High School. And the greenhouse is really a learning space in a world-class setting. So truly, this greenhouse is state-of-the-art. I actually participated in the training on how to run it just because I was so interested in, just kind of the dynamics of it. Well, about 30 minutes in, I'm like, this is so above my knowledge of, like what on earth that, but our kids are learning how to run this greenhouse, which is truly state-of-the-art, and it is so high-tech. Everything is just smart, and it figures out on its own how it needs to regulate the space in order to be able to increase airflow, temperature, all the things. And our kids are getting to learn that in that, what we call kind of a laboratory space in the greenhouse. So again, super grateful to the community for this opportunity. Those are our FFA kids there in their blue jackets. Kind of hard to see on that screen. Right now, if you just look out to the right of the community center, you'll see that the Early Childhood Center is being constructed as we speak, right? So we've reached a really important moment in the life cycle of the Early Childhood Center because the walls are up and wrapped, and the roof is on. So we are now able to put heat in there so that the guys can work and things are going to really start to roll. We are on absolute track to have our Early Childhood Center open this fall. So you look at that wrapping right now, you can't quite believe that it's going to be ready, but it will. Our contractors are assuring us that it will be ready for 3 and 4-year-olds in the middle of August, and we just can't wait to welcome those sweet new learners to that space. We are starting registration for our Early Childhood Center in March. So in just a few weeks here, we will be getting those kiddos registered for early childhood time. And it's going to be a space that will be open all year round. So our Early Childhood Center will be open even during the summertime. So that is a really nice added value for families, because many times folks who work don't just work on a school calendar, right? They need to have care throughout the summertime, and the space will be able to serve that need. And here we are at the opening of that, which was just so special. So shifting things a little bit from what has been constructed to just kind of the financial outlook. Usually when you give kind of a state of the schools, or sort of any sort of update, folks like to know how are things going financially for the district. So I just wanted to update you a little bit on that, just a few points here. Obviously, that ongoing gratitude for our community, the referendum. This district is one that is really impacted with the circuit breaker, so we just don't receive any dollars to be able to run the operations of the school district. So the referenda does that. So we had 2 referenda that were approved, one for the construction projects and one for just general operating. So many districts don't have to go to their community to just help with regular ongoing operations. We do, because we just don't receive any dollars to that end. So grateful to the community for their ongoing support of those operational needs, and just always like to pause and say thank you for that level of support. The projects that we've been engaged in are evidencing this very national, I imagine global issue of supply chain and increasing costs as a result of all of these issues. So the projects that have been deployed have come in well over budget, unfortunately, and that's because of these issues. So steel has a 70% markup at this point from where it was when the project was ideated to begin with. I mean, you think about that, just that, and then there is an impact really in almost every layer of what is being constructed at this point. Carpeting, massive differential in what we had expected versus where we are now. So some of the little things are very much on our mind, and it's meant that we've needed to kind of pull in some projects in other places, so that, because I haven't found that money tree yet in the backyard. I keep looking for it, but right, there's a finite amount of resources, and we have to make sure that we are within those boundaries. But we are still constructing gorgeous, beautiful spaces and just making the decisions that we need to make in order to ensure that we're responsible with our dollars. We had, this year, we witnessed a pretty significant student enrollment decline. That is not something that I ever like to share, because, kind of the sign of a healthy school district is at least a stabilized, growing enrollment. So we tried to better understand what was going on there with our enrollment decline. And quite frankly, it was very pandemic related. So last year, because Beech Grove Secondary were in the hybrid model, so we were actually coming to school at least for half of the time, some of our neighboring districts didn't have the opportunity to come to school in person. So we always have a large number of transfer students. We witnessed a large number of transfer students last year because they were coming here in order to access that in-person instruction. About 250, 300 students went back to their home districts this year because everybody was learning in person. So we think we've settled in now to kind of our norm. It's just that when you have an enrollment decline, then you're having less dollars coming to the district because you have less students that you're serving. So we just need to ensure that our staff levels match the number of students that we are serving. So you always want to make sure that your expenditures, right, don't outpace your revenues, and that's what we're doing right now. So when positions become available, we've been having those hard conversations to say, do we need to fill it? And if we don't, and many times we have not needed to, then we don't. And then that's just the way that we kind of, through the model of attrition, ensure that our budget is still strong. We are in the process of restructuring our administrative office. Our board has received negative feedback. We had 2 assistant superintendent positions, one in charge of curriculum and instruction, one in charge of business and finance. We are redesigning so that ultimately in 2 years we won't have assistant superintendents anymore, but we'll be using a director model. We had a retirement. Our assistant superintendent for business retired in December, and our assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction will be retiring in a year. So this is allowing for us to restructure, and ultimately we will eliminate 2 district level administrator positions that will allow for us to realize a savings in 2 years of about $350,000. So it's something that we feel is important to do. We've already presented this to our board. They are very supportive of this, and we think just communicates fiscal responsibility, making sure that folks are picking up more. We don't want to limit the services that we're providing, but we feel like with this structure we can still do what we're known for doing well, just doing it in a little bit of a different way. We're so grateful right now. We are still beneficiaries of the ESSER federal funding, which is these are the dollars that have been given to school districts, municipalities to get through this pandemic. And Beech Grove Beech Grove City Schools has received almost $9 million total in ESSER funding. And almost all of this is going to improved HVAC, lots and lots of pieces to these construction projects that we're allowed to then use these resources that we would have never been able to do without this level of funding. And then simultaneously, the other half of the resources are going to support that student learning loss, right? So after school programming, we have a very cool thing happening at South Grove now where students are able to stay for another hour after school and get kind of some remediation, but then also just experiencing some enrichment opportunities. So we just want kids to be together. They've kind of forgot how to be with each other and students and enjoy some of the things that come along with being young, right? That we want for our young people to be able to realize. And then again, right, just trying this ongoing conservative management style to be able to bring in our budget to be able to meet the dollars that are coming in. Just wanted to celebrate our community partnerships. Our Alumni Association is unbelievable. We are so grateful for really special campaigns that are happening in our community. We are really excited about our Veterans Memorial Project. This is a project that our Alumni Association has been engaged in. Melody Stevens is leading a campaign effort to be able to raise funds for the realization of a Veterans Memorial at our football field at Veterans Stadium. Jeff Mader's been very much involved in design work for that space, and it's going to be world class once we get there. We've got some fundraising to do to get to that end, but a really lovely way for us to remind our students about why we get to be here, and that's because of the incredible service that our veterans have offered to our community, to our state, to our nation, of course. And we are looking forward to celebrating once we get to that project's realization. Just some wonderful things that we have going on with our community. We've got this idea for a new campaign, this sort of concept of our city, our school, Beech Grove, right? We're the same. And, many times the city might have several school districts in its municipality, or, we are the city and the city is us, and the schools are better because of our wonderful city, and we hope that we give value back to the city when you're a resident of this community. So we are trying to evangelize Beech Grove is our concept. We want black and orange everywhere, and we've just purchased some yard signs to be able to just sort of advance this campaign. So I wanted to offer to you all in your business or in your residence, we'll have yard signs available that you can help us sort of spread the word about one city, one school. So our city, our school. Our Childhood Center, you're going to see a wonderful billboard come up on Emerson Avenue pretty soon, probably next week, Melody, right? To just get the word out about our Early Childhood Center, so we're excited to see that on Emerson. And then we're also very excited about our District Art Show that's coming up. This is a very special community engagement. We haven't had it for a couple years now, and we're looking forward to getting back to celebrating the art of our kids. I'm almost there. I know I'm going over. I apologize for that. Just a couple student success stories. Our JROTC program is amazing. These kids are doing incredible service work every day. They're serving in our schools and they're serving in our community, and we just couldn't be more proud of these kids. It's just an incredible program. Mayor, you might see yourself there. Our arts programming in this community is unbelievable. Of course, our Marching Hornets. We have an amazing show choir that's competing right now. And I wanted to invite you all. So tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday, we have our spring play. And it's Pride and Prejudice. It will start at 7 o'clock tonight, tomorrow, Saturday. I can't wait. I'm going tonight. Our theater program here is ridiculous. I went to Chicago in the fall, and I just couldn't believe it was a student performance. They're just amazing. Our FFA program, of course, is just extraordinary. And I just wanted to give you my contact information. So you are always welcome to call me, email, whatever. Hopefully you'll find that I'm easy to connect with, and I'm just so grateful to be a part of this community and grateful to serve on the Greater Beech Grove Chamber of Commerce board as well. So it's just a nice way to be connected. Can I answer any questions? I went through that fast. Whew. Well, thank you all for being here. It really does mean a lot to me.